All right, guys. So, what do you guys think in general about the readings and lecture material this week? Anything stand out?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of information this time, I felt, especially the 45-minute lecture. I don't know which one it was. Oh, the leadership, I think. Uh, yeah, so that one was a lot, but the key component I kind of learned is the to be the aim to be the level one value creator. That's what caught me. So to be focused on just relentlessly creating value for the organization, be open
Yeah,
to
I'll
uh,
add to that. That was my biggest takeaway too, reframing the idea of success around, value creation rather than goal attainment. I think it was something along the lines of like the added value of the size or the added value is the size of the pie that you are minus what you're when you're not, something like that. But I remember that was my biggest takeaway reading. I was like, wow, that's like super cool. But it forces a sharper lens on the contribution and really helps kind of frame leadership performance management to at a larger scale.
I thought it was interesting because I kept reflecting on like, okay, when you are a value creator, oftentimes you're pushing boundaries and you're innovating in some certain way or role or team, and you might lose some others. And so I thought it was just really interesting to tie into that of like the craft and share a compelling strategic vision through storytelling and like making sure that you're very clear and concise with the four audiences that are there. Because I think I personally don't do a good job of that. I love to push boundaries, but I'm not good at communicating it to others on my team, and I often have to catch people up. So I just thought it was interesting to like align those four quadrants together to build a team around that idea of creating value.
I like the quote. I think it was in the lecture video where it was just talking about it takes as much effort to work on a boring problem as an interesting one. I think that kind of made my like internal wheels start turning where I'm thinking, why am I putting in like less effort on something that I don't necessarily care about and it just gets dragged on for longer. So it kind of just made me think of like how to reprioritize my own personal workload, work plate.
Yeah, I think that's a great input. For me, I feel like the dots connected a little bit when I was just reflecting on a lot of the projects that I've been on and things that have happened. And one, I guess, kind of the T that struck my mind was if I'm on the project and I'm working on it, if I step back and take myself out of the project, was it better or worse that I was there, or would it be better or worse if I wasn't there? If it wasn't better when I was involved, then I obviously wasn't very valuable. I didn't probably contribute as much as I should have or done my job well. But if I wasn't involved and it crashed or it failed, then that shows that I probably was involved heavily. I created value. I helped bring value to the table. And so I think moving forward, I'll often reflect on a lot of the projects and milestones that I'm hitting within projects. What have I done to create value? What impacts or what changed because I was involved?
I think
Another
that
thing
takes a lot of honesty too, like to be able to do that. Because I know
Mhm.
there's times where it's like I want to say I was involved and I made changes, but I definitely didn't. Like I probably was a roadblock, like
Right.
at the end of the day. So
No,
that's interesting. That's
absolutely.
a cool way to think about it.
Another thing that I found interesting, so a little bit of history. I've been pretty in the weeds with my company, working on our mission, vision, and our values and all those statements. And I found it really interesting. I don't remember the exact number, and I'll punt to you guys for the number, but it was something along the lines of 20% of most executives don't know their value or their vision statement. That's like bananas.
I
I
don't
think
think I was just thinking about my organization. We don't have a mission statement per se. I don't know whether it's I don't know about your companies. Do they have like a formal thing like that?
Yeah.
I've seen it in some companies. They have they frame it, like at the entrance and stuff. But recently, I've not seen any of those. Like I went to a auto body place, right? I don't remember seeing anything like that. I mean, after going through these lectures, I was like, I'm trying to notice stuff like that, but I haven't seen it.
Well, and going along with that, I'm not going to bag on the company I work for, but our mission statement is making your dream building come to life. And I feel like that's great, but it could be so much better. So,
That's good though. That's a good, very compact one, just like how the lectures went.
mhm. So we'll
We
see. I
had
don't know.
a professor that asked us, I think it was like last fall semester, just like if we knew our vision statements. And I couldn't tell you the company I work for, and I don't know if that's necessarily a I don't care that much. Like I don't have like company loyalty, or if it's just a we have moved so far away from it because you're talking about not being able to see it in stores you go into and like all the clean marketing that's going on where we're cutting back on that stuff. But I don't know. I think it's also helpful to know if there's a common goal, common interest.
Yeah, I mean, but I wonder if like the real question here is it bad that they don't know a mission statement, or is it bad that they just don't know their strategy? Because that's much wider than just like some words. This is like how you're generating value. And with some smaller companies, they usually aren't trying to take over the world. But if you're trying to like win big, it seems like it's something pretty important. But anyways, my thoughts on this are I think it's interesting that it's kind of tying a lot to like back things. Like for example, like it's better to like look at like what does the world want from me versus like what do I want from the world? And just leaning into the value creation and storytelling. It seems like it's kind of like we're learning something new, but also kind of connecting things from the past.
I can understand like a smaller organization, kind of like a startup or, somebody getting their feet underneath them, really laying in on and explaining their mission, their vision, and whatnot. So I'd be curious, Daniel, I'm going to call you out. Do you know General Mills' mission statement, vision, or any of that stuff?
Yeah, so our mission statement is making food the world loves, which is like the most generic thing, right? But it then compacts down into different pillars that exist that are like the core values of the company. And those I don't know off the top of my head.
That's
But the
impressive.
way they monitor is essentially like everything ties back to your personal goals. So like everything you're doing has to loop into one of those pillars. But at the same time, as I was going through this whole exercise, I was pretty cynical on it because I was like, I know they exist, but I don't truly like resonate with them. And how hard is it to do in a huge company was my constant question. Was like, how do you make something so flexible that every team that's working on something different in this massive spectrum can relate to it? It feels like a very difficult task, I guess is what I get at.
How are we doing on time, by the way?
Um, I don't know. I haven't been watching. We've gone for a while. We can
Cool.
probably move on to the next question or the next thought.
Yeah,
Um,
we can do one more.
I can help you. I
It's
was thinking about one of these that kind of goes along with it. I took a note here. The question is, do you live by these principles currently? Do your team or colleagues? And I guess in construction, I see this both on the extremes where people do things just to check off the box and have it off their plate. And I often do this a lot with things that I'm working with at work. If it's in my email box, then it's on my to-do list. But if it's moved into a folder, then I've taken care of that issue or that problem or that situation. But then I also have tried to focus on being more long-term and relationship focused so that I can influence and trust my influence and trust with others can build, throughout my career. And so I'm trying to do better at not thinking so short and temporarily, but trying to think of how, like my value, how does it add my relationship with this person? Um, am I focused on growing and becoming intentional over time and not just getting things done and checking off the box?
So I I mean, based on these lectures, storytelling is really important, right? Important uh, in a workplace, I guess, if you want to be a good leader. So that's something which I lack. So I hope to kind of learn from these lectures, learn from these exercises, and try to see whether I can improve that, become more creative, more fluent, and like, eventually be inspiring, motivating, and persuasive, persuasive and a positive change in the workplace.
I think I would love to say it's like, yeah, like I focus on all the right things, but I think sometimes I focus on today. A little kind of like your goal of like looking further, Cash. I sometimes get bogged down by what needs to happen now and don't really like pull my head out and be like, well, what's actually going to push us forward? I think that it's a very intentional and deliberate skill to go out and do that because the thing in your face is the most distracting.
Does anyone else have any insight on this question, or you guys have all shared great thoughts so far?
I think in the interest of time, I'll just, one of the principles that I think I'm living by currently is more the value creation principle than the vision crafting principle because in my role I do a lot on the business development front. So it's a lot of the, how can you create value? What does the next day look like? What does a pipeline look like? How can I grow that? So it's kind of a mix more on, there is some vision crafting in that, but it's really focused on more the monetary value creation. But I'll just cap on that. Something that I live by every day.
Great. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.